Good day, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining me for this third and final session in AIR's Commercial Underwriting Webinars series. As Rebecca introduced, the topic for today's discussion is the broader solution for commercial underwriting from AIR and Verisk Analytics. My name is Pete Bingenheimer, and I'm a Vice President overseeing AIR's business development and consulting services in the U.S. insurance and broker markets. In this capacity, I work closely with our insurer clients, including those in the commercial space, to help them implement AIR solutions in an efficient and effective manner. I hope the majority of you in the audience were able to attend the first two sessions in this series. In the first session, Peter Baldazides highlighted how Touchstone is in a class of its own as a catastrophe-oriented underwriting platform. He provided a live demonstration of the streamlined process of underwriting an account in Touchstone and showcased the breadth of analytics that Touchstone offers to support account underwriting. In the second session, Bill Walker picked up where Peter left off, making the connection between the account and the portfolio and highlighting the portfolio loss and accumulation capabilities that are uniquely available in Touchstone. In today's session, we will take a step back and I will describe the strengths of AIR solutions in a more holistic way, including how they can be enhanced or supplemented with many of the data and analytical capabilities offered across our parent company, Verisk Analytics. This discussion will focus in three areas. First, I will highlight the strengths of AIR's models, including our financial model, and address how our already robust models have been enhanced over the last several years to better handle commercial risks. Next, I will describe a number of ways in which assets from other parts of Verisk Analytics are being leveraged to enhance and supplement the capabilities used by our clients. And finally, I will bring it back to Touchstone and summarize what makes Touchstone the most advanced platform for underwriting and portfolio management in the commercial space. So let's begin by discussing the suitability of AIR's models for handling commercial lines of business. AIR's clients are taking advantage of the comprehensive suite of models that we offer today, which span more than 90 countries and include 9 primary perils and many more sub-perils. Model coverage extends throughout the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific. By way of illustration, the images on the left show our model coverage for tropical cyclone in the top panel and earthquake in the bottom panel. The areas in green and blue represent countries where we have models today, and the areas in purple reflect countries where we are planning to add models in the relatively near future. In terms of peril coverage, as shown on the right, primary perils for which we have models include tropical cyclone, earthquake, winter storm or extratropical cyclones, severe thunderstorm, flood, wildfire and bushfire, terrorism, crop, and pandemic. Covered lines of business extend far beyond conventional property lines to include offshore, energy, inland marine and other specialty lines, as well as workers' compensation, personal accident, and life for many applicable regions and perils. The breadth of AIR's model coverage, both in terms of geography as well as perils, is critical to our clients in the commercial space for several reasons. Many carriers write global portfolios, many accounts are global in nature, and companies are looking for analytical capabilities to enable them to effectively underwrite risks to a growing number of perils. Ultimately, our commercial lines clients benefit from the comprehensive coverage that we are able to offer them, all available through a single platform that facilitates account underwriting and portfolio management. Not only do we offer this extensive model coverage, but our models are widely recognized as the most robust and scientifically available models available. This is due in part to the fact that we are constantly evaluating the state of the science, available data, and findings from events that occur to ensure that our models remain at the cutting edge of hazard, vulnerability, and loss estimation. We have made countless model updates over time that have benefited our clients in the commercial space. Here we see a timeline spanning the past 10 years and highlighting many of these enhancements. The timeline reads from left to right across the top and then bottom half of the slide. We have made significant enhancements to AIR's hurricane model for the United States in 2006 and 2007, following the hurricane seasons of 2004 and 2005. Again in 2010, where we undertook a comprehensive model update, including significant updates to commercial vulnerability. and most recently in 2015 when we comprehensively updated our storm surge model. The AIR earthquake model for the United States was updated in 2009 following the USGS National Seismic Hazard Maps, which were updated and released in 2008, and the updated included substantial enhancements to commercial vulnerability that were developed based on nonlinear dynamic analysis. We enhanced our terrorism model in 2007 and then again in 2011, which is widely used in the commercial market. In 2012, we added builder's risk capabilities for U.S. hurricane and earthquake models. In 2014, following several active severe thunderstorm seasons, including the noteworthy year of 2011, we released a comprehensive update to our severe thunderstorm model for the United States, including substantial enhancements to commercial vulnerability that were well received by the market. And also in 2014, we released the industry's first fully probabilistic flood model for the United States. These are but a few of the enhancements we've made to our U.S. models in recent years, and they speak to our commitment to provide the commercial carriers with the best and most complete set of tools for underwriting and managing risk. To provide some additional details on commercial-oriented enhancements, let's further focus on changes made to our U.S. hurricane model as part of our most recent major model updates, first in 2010 and then most recently in 2015. For our 2010 update, which was the most comprehensive update we have undertaken to our U.S. hurricane model, we leveraged the wealth of claims data that we accumulated over the period from 2004 through 2008 to substantially refine our handling of commercial vulnerability. Not only did we receive an extensive amount of data, but we were also granted access to the detailed claims files of some significant E&S and large commercial carriers, which offered us insights into damage, claims handling procedures, and ultimately insured losses at an unprecedented level of detail. First, we enhanced the handling of commercial vulnerability for engineered structures, such as steel and reinforced concrete buildings, by better capturing damage to non-structural elements such as windows, exterior fixtures, and the roof system, as well as damage to contents. Next, we refined our treatment of business interruption, building on updates that were made in 2007, increasing the spread of potential downtime around mean estimates for business interruption to better reflect the variability inherent in business interruption losses. And finally, we introduced an industrial facilities model to better reflect the vulnerability of large industrial facilities such as chemical plants or heavy fabrication facilities to wind and storm surge. Just last month, we released our latest update to the U.S. hurricane model, in which we comprehensively updated our storm surge model. Key features of the update include a new hydrodynamical model that accounts for spatial and temporal meteorological information and localized topographical details to numerically simulate location-specific storm surge inundation depth and extent, and component-based vulnerability functions that reflect local building codes and regional design practices in estimating damage. As with the updates in 2010, these enhancements were informed by extensive claims data and post-disaster damage surveys, with attention paid to data and learnings from the hurricanes Katrina and Ike, as well as post-tropical cyclone Sandy. Our efforts to enhance our models in ways that meet the demands of the commercial market extend far beyond the United States. One major area of focus that is of interest to our commercial clients is related to water perils. Commercial policies cover losses from water perils in a growing number of regions, and with the recent events such as the Thailand floods in 2010 and the tsunami following the Tohoku earthquake in 2011, there is an increased focus on understanding this risk. In response to this, we have released new models or enhanced existing models across the globe to account for losses from precipitation-induced floods, storm surge, and tsunami events. Our flood model coverage was expanded last year with the release of AIR's flood model for the US, and just this year we expanded our coverage in Europe to include Austria, Switzerland, and the Czech Republic. We have also developed flood hazard maps for Thailand, China, and most recently Brazil. These are areas where the market is demanding solutions, and until fully probabilistic models can be developed, flood hazard maps offer a practical solution for underwriting and accumulation management. With respect to the tsunami peril, following the release of the industry's first probabilistic tsunami model for Japan in 2013, we have released tsunami models in Canada and South America in 2014 and 2015 respectively. This also underscores another theme that the industry is focused on, which is explicit accounting for subperils. In response to this interest, we have been increasing our coverage of subperils as we release newer enhanced models. For example, in addition to adding tsunami as a subperil with recent earthquake model updates, we've enhanced our fire following capabilities and added explicit handling of liquefaction and landslide. Finally, we have also responded to the market's demand for explicit handling of more lines of business and specialized risks, both of which are pertinent to commercial carriers. In Japan, for example, we have introduced vulnerability functions for railways, marine cargo, marine hull, transit warehouse, and personal accident. In South America, we've also introduced vulnerability functions for infrastructure, including roads, bridges, tunnels, and utilities. We've also added support for industrial facilities across a growing number of regions and perils globally as we've updated models. Our industrial facilities models have been derived from the expertise of our Catastrophe Risk Engineering, or CRE group, based out of our San Francisco office. Our CRE team helps clients perform site-specific risk assessments for large and unique facilities, including industrial plants, in order to help them better quantify their risk and reduce the uncertainty inherent in loss estimation for these types of non-standard assets. The knowledge gained through helping clients in this manner has led to a robust and practical industrial facilities modeling methodology that leverages component-based damage functions and distributions of values by components to yield composite damage functions for different types of facilities. In addition to having superior underlying hazard and vulnerability models that have been enhanced over time to better address commercial interests and estimate damage to commercial risks, AIR has the most robust financial model for capturing and propagating uncertainty that is inherent in commercial vulnerability. First and foremost, we employ a probabilistic approach in applying all terms and conditions from coverage and location terms through to the first layer of per-risk or quota share reinsurance. By using a probabilistic approach, we are taking into account all possible loss scenarios when applying terms by considering the loss for an individual coverage or location as a probability distribution rather than a single number. The probability distributions we use in this process are created and validated using detailed claims data, and our choice of distribution differs by peril, allowing for the most realistic capture of uncertainty around expected damage. For example, in our severe thunderstorm model for the United States, we use entirely different suites of distributions to model secondary uncertainty in hail damage as opposed to tornado. The tornado distributions having much thicker tails and therefore greater probability of 100% damage, reflecting the reality of the effects of each peril. We also delineate between types of structures in terms of engineered versus non-engineered structures. An engineered structure might have less of a probability of total loss for the same expected damage, owing to the superior construction of engineered risks. Second, we employ numerical convolution in combining losses across coverages and locations. Numerical convolution has a few advantages as a method for combining loss distributions. First, it uses discrete distributions, which themselves have a couple of advantages over using analytical or continuous distributions. Discrete distributions allow us to readily and realistically model probabilities of 0 and 100% loss, which are evident in claims data and vitally important to capturing the full range of outcomes for a given risk. Discrete distributions can also take on any shape. To give an example of why this is important, take the example of a single location where we apply a limit. The resulting distribution, if properly modeled, will have a spike of probability at the point on the distribution where the limit was applied. This is what you will get in a discrete distribution. However, in an analytical framework, after the limit is applied, a new distribution will need to be generated, and by definition the analytical or continuous form of that distribution will not have the correct shape, as it will lack the spike generated in the discrete method. Returning to numerical convolution, another advantage is its time savings over simulation-based methods. While simulation shares the advantage of numerical convolution has with regard to properly modeling all possible loss outcomes, the number of simulations required to reach convergence is quite large, and in general would result in longer loss analysis times than the numerical convolution approach. Our probabilistic application of terms and use of numerical convolution together provide our clients with superior treatment of uncertainty in their underwriting processes. Additionally, we employ a back allocation approach that allows clients to obtain losses net of terms all the way down to the location or coverage level in a manner where they tie out to the account loss. Proper back allocation of losses is vitally important in a number of functions when analyzing CAP model output, including measuring contributions of individual locations to an account's overall loss for an event, and properly estimating losses to policies subject to reinsurance treaties with occurrence limits. And finally, we support a broad range of policy terms that are reflective of real-world conditions employed in the commercial space. This spans the full range of coverage and location terms, sublimits, and policy terms. It also extends to reinsurance terms, including facultative certificates, per risk, quota share, or surplus share treaties, which can empower companies to underwrite based on reliable gross and net loss estimates. Relatively recent enhancements include the introduction of campus terms covering numerous buildings on a single site, and spot fact that can be applied to individual locations on multi-location accounts. Ultimately, our robust peril models and powerful financial model offer clients stable and reliable loss estimates that empower them to make profitable underwriting decisions and have confidence in those decisions. I will now change gears and turn my attention to the many areas in which our place within the Verisk Analytics family of companies enhances or expands the solutions we can bring to bear for our commercial underwriting clients. Here we see a simplified rendering of a typical workflow that our clients employ within Touchstone. These steps apply to both underwriting and portfolio management processes, but I will speak to them from the standpoint of underwriting. A key first step in evaluating an account is gathering exposure data and evaluating it for completeness, reasonability, and accuracy. Next, the underwriter will need to evaluate the account's exposure to hazards, including natural and man-made hazards, to understand the riskiness of the account and determine if it meets or violates underwriting guidelines. Loss estimates for both catastrophe and non-catastrophe perils are then needed in order to further assess risk and inform pricing. And finally, if bound, the account will be rolled into the portfolio, where it must be considered in portfolio management functions, including accumulation, management, and reporting. Verisk offers a wide range of data and analytics that can enhance or supplement the capabilities we offer in Touchstone. I will summarize these connections here, and I will then provide more detail on the Verisk solutions in the following slides. At the point of exposure data capture and evaluation, Verisk's ProMetrics and 360 value solutions offer data such as building characteristic details and replacement cost estimates to inform underwriting decisions. These data can be accessed by Touchstone users in a couple of ways, which I will expand upon later. At the point of hazard evaluation, Verisk offers data for both natural and man-made hazards that can supplement the natural hazard data that AIR develops internally and provides to our clients via Touchstone's hazard module. In terms of loss estimation, and focusing first on our catastrophe models, our clients have long benefited from our well-validated models. Model validation and refinements are informed by industry loss and detailed claims data available to us from our sister companies PCS and Xactware. Most everyone in attendance is probably familiar with PCS, which generates industry loss estimates from catastrophes, but you may be less familiar with Xactware, which develops the industry's #1 claims handling software. Through our association with Xactware, we have been able to access data for almost $40 billion in claims to inform enhancements made to our models. Turning to loss estimates for non-catastrophe perils, Touchstone includes non-catastrophe loss estimation capabilities today. This capability allows companies to leverage ISO loss costs and ISO's PSOLD, or property size of loss curves, to yield non-catastrophe loss estimates alongside catastrophe loss estimates in an integrated workflow. And finally, in the area of accumulation management, data layers reflecting hazard metrics from Verisk Climate, Verisk Maplecroft, and Verisk's FireLine product can be utilized in Touchstone to assess individual accounts or full portfolios relative to these metrics. Let's now look at these connections in a little more detail. The importance of exposure data quality is well accepted across the insurance industry, yet it is still an area where the industry struggles. This applies from the point of underwriting through to portfolio management and risk transfer. Data provided by insureds and brokers to commercial carriers is often incomplete, and it can be difficult to validate the quality of the data that is provided. For an underwriter, if you do not know what you are underwriting, and specifically if you do not have the right data elements to effectively assess catastrophe risk, it is difficult to make underwriting decisions that you can have confidence in. For example, if you have limited information, such as only a fire class for a building within a schedule of values you are underwriting, there will be a great deal of uncertainty underlying any loss metrics you may generate. If, however, you have details such as construction information that is pertinent to catastrophe risk, year built, number of stories, and occupancy, you can have far more confidence in loss estimates that inform your risk selection and pricing decisions. Verisk's ProMetric solution offers a database of site-verified information on well over 3 million commercial buildings in the United States, and these data are used by carriers big and small across the industry to inform underwriting decisions for both catastrophe and non-catastrophe perils. Specific to catastrophe risk, ProMetrics includes critical information about structural characteristics and protections that it can improve model results. ProMetrics data is delivered to underwriters in a number of ways, including via building underwriting reports, or BURRs, which many people in the audience may be familiar with. AIR has been able to employ these data in developing our property-specific database, which is accessible directly within Touchstone to help companies augment their exposure data and reduce uncertainty in modeled loss estimates. Not only do we offer these data within Touchstone, but we enhance them for catastrophe risk assessment by leveraging information within ProMetrics to yield data that are more suitable for catastrophe modeling. For example, a BURR may commonly contain an ISO fire class as the primary construction classification for a building. This classification is useful for assessing fire risk, but it is too general for reliable catastrophe loss estimation. Despite this limitation, this is often what is captured and fed into the modeling process. However, a BURR also contains additional information about a building's wall type that can allow us to better classify the building into a construction classification that is suitable for catastrophe risk assessment. And this is exactly what we've done in developing our property-specific database. Therefore, clients using AIR's data quality augmentation capabilities within Touchstone can benefit from this catastrophe-oriented data sourced from ProMetrics and enhanced for catastrophe modeling use. In addition to building characteristics, replacement values are critical inputs into underwriting analytics for both catastrophe and non-catastrophe perils. Verisk's 360 value replacement cost estimation solution offers component-based replacement cost estimates that can be leveraged to validate or improve replacement values that carriers are using in underwriting commercial risks. In response to demands from clients to streamline the process of obtaining reliable replacement values and feeding them into the analytical components of the underwriting process, AIR and Verisk have developed integration capabilities between Touchstone and 360 Value. This allows replacement cost estimates to be generated in an automated way based on the data that has been imported into Touchstone, and then to be updated within Touchstone in a seamless manner. This process leverages a bridge utility that pulls data from Touchstone and submits it to 360 Value via web services to generate replacement cost estimates. These values are then returned to the utility, where they can be reviewed by the underwriter. Based on this review, he or she can then choose to replace some all or none of the values back in Touchstone, and the updates will take place with the click of a button. It should also be noted that the same building characteristics that are necessary for catastrophe and non-catastrophe risk assessment are also pertinent to generating accurate replacement costs. Data from Prometrics, which I previously described, can also be obtained via 360 Values prefill capability to inform the replacement cost estimation, and also to be fed back to Touchstone as another means of data augmentation to improve modeling and other analytics. Turning now from data quality to hazard assessment, AIR offers a number of hazard metrics for natural perils that we have developed in conjunction with our underlying peril models and that underwriters are using today to quickly assess risks relative to these hazards and impose underwriting guidelines based on hazard criteria. In addition to AIR's hazard data elements, we are able to offer hazard analytics using ISO's rendering of the coastline, which is widely used by underwriters today to impose distance-to-coast guidelines. In the future, we are looking to add Verisk's FireLine scoring capability, which offers risk scoring relative to the wildfire peril, to our hazard analytics capability. And going beyond natural hazards, we are planning to add Verisk's widely used public protection class, or PPC metrics, to help further inform fire risk assessment and rating. After evaluating hazard, loss estimates must be generated in order for underwriters to effectively price risks. Loss estimates are needed for both catastrophe and non-catastrophe perils. I already spoke briefly about how data from within the Verisk family of companies facilitates our model validation and refinement efforts to help us deliver the most robust catastrophe models, and it is well understood that CAT modeling capabilities are at the core of AIR solutions. However, in addition to this core capability that you have come to expect from AIR, Touchstone also offers loss analysis capabilities for non-catastrophe perils such as fire, vandalism, and water leakage. This capability enables clients to employ ISO loss costs to generate ground-up loss estimates and ISO's property size of loss or piecehold curves to estimate losses to different layers of coverage in the case of shared and layered policies directly within Touchstone. This offers carriers significant workflow efficiencies in their underwriting processes. This is because many of the steps undertaken for both catastrophe and non-catastrophe risk assessment are duplicative. Exposure data must be gathered, imported, evaluated, and improved. Loss analytics must then be invoked to yield loss estimates before and after the application of policy terms, which are needed for structuring and pricing coverage, and those results must then be fed to the systems used for pricing. By performing non-catastrophe analyses within Touchstones, clients reduce duplication and reach decisions faster and more effectively. Turning now to accumulation management, a number of Verisk capabilities can be delivered in geospatial layers or shapefiles, which enable clients to utilize them within Touchstone's geospatial module for accumulation management and underwriting analyses. For example, FireLine scores, which I mentioned previously, can be fed into Touchstone as shapefiles and accumulated against using the full power of Touchstone's geospatial module. Similarly, terrorism risk indices from our sister company Verisk Maplecroft can be used in much the same manner. Verisk Maplecroft develops global risk analytics to help companies assess risks such as political and terrorism risk across the globe. This includes a terrorism risk index that characterizes a country's exposure to international terrorism based on analyses of the frequency and intensity of reported cross-border terrorist attacks, the frequency and intensity of terrorist attacks carried out in neighboring countries, and the history and severity of international terrorist activity affecting the country over time. This index can be imported into the geospatial module as a shapefile, thus enabling international terrorism risk analyses for individual accounts and portfolios to be done directly within Touchstone. And as a final example, shapefiles from our sister company Verisk Climate that include risk scores and event footprints for perils such as wind and hail can be imported into Touchstone's geospatial module to assess risk in the immediate aftermath of an event. These tools can be used alongside AIR's alert services to supplement real-time risk assessment. For example, here we see material that AIR and Verisk Climate generated for the flood and severe storm events that impacted Texas in late May and early June of this year. The top panel shows flood footprints produced by AIR, and the bottom panel shows hail footprints produced by Verisk Climate via their response service. These tools can be used together to help a carrier understand the full extent of their exposure to a weather event in real time. Ultimately, data and analytics from across the Verisk family of companies can be leveraged by AIR's clients to offer the most comprehensive suite of analytical capabilities to support underwriting. Among modeling firms, AIR is uniquely positioned to help companies make these connections due to our place within Verisk Analytics. Many companies are benefiting from a range of analytics offered by both AIR and Verisk today. One such company that is doing so in an innovative manner, leveraging a lot of the connections I have described here, is IFG Companies. IFG is one of the largest privately held insurance groups in the United States. Founded in 1985, the organization has primarily served the casualty insurance market with a small amount of supporting commercial property business. Beginning in 2014, IFG undertook a number of strategic initiatives to revitalize and expand its capabilities in the excess and surplus lines market, including launching a layered and shared commercial property line. In doing so, they realized they needed a suite of analytics and modeling capabilities that would support an efficient and streamlined commercial property underwriting workflow. The company also wanted to consolidate its efforts into one risk management platform that could serve as the foundation for all its catastrophe analytics needs. IFG chose AIR and our sister companies within Verisk to deliver comprehensive solutions centered on Touchstone. Highlights of the solution include the use of Touchstone's powerful mapping tools to visualize risks relative to hazards, Touchstone's data quality scoring to facilitate data evaluation, integration of 360 value and Prometric solutions to check and augment replacement values and building characteristics, hazard analytics that account for IFG's hazard guidelines, Touchstone's clash analytics to help prevent unintended geographic concentrations, and of course loss analytics, including catastrophe loss analytics empowered by AIR's models, and also non-catastrophe loss analytics that employ ISO loss costs and Peasehold curves to yield losses to different layers of coverage. AIR and Verisk work closely with IFG to develop a streamlined workflow that delivers these analytics in an efficient manner with minimal transitions between systems and interfaces. We have published a case study describing the solution we have developed with IFG in more detail on our website, and I encourage you all to visit our website's front page in order to have a look. To conclude, I would now like to quickly summarize the key benefits that companies who are utilizing Touchstone for commercial underwriting are realizing today. As Peter Baldazides described in the first webinar in this series, Touchstone offers streamlined account underwriting capabilities in a modern, user-friendly, and rich user interface. With the single click of a button, data can be imported, a range of automated analyses can be invoked based on custom criteria, underwriting guidelines can be imposed to ensure controls are upheld, reports can be generated, and ultimately information needed to select and price risk can be effectively presented to the underwriter. As Bill Walker described in the second webinar of this series, the same Touchstone platform also offers portfolio analytics and accumulation capabilities that support a number of critical functions, including managing zonal accumulations, identifying peak concentrations, reporting exposed limits based on internal or external criteria such as AM Best or Lloyd's requirements, evaluating adherence to underwriting guidelines, and assessing losses to catastrophes in real time. And because underwriting and portfolio analytics are done within a single platform, Touchstone allows underwriters to assess accounts in the context of the in-force portfolio. Data quality for an account is automatically compared to that of the portfolio. Cases where locations in an account clash with locations already in the portfolio can be flagged for further review, and marginal impact of modeled losses can easily be generated to support better risk selection decisions. Clients recently received the third major release of Touchstone, And with this release, we have once again delivered an expanding suite of analytics that extend far beyond traditional catastrophe loss analytics. Touchstone offers data quality, hazard, and geospatial analytics in addition to loss capabilities to support account underwriting and portfolio management functions for catastrophe and non-catastrophe perils alike in modeled and non-modeled regions. Touchstone offers transparency and flexibility and leverages a growing number of data and analytical assets from across the Verisk enterprise. And there is more to come. Responding to our clients' demands, AIR has a clear roadmap for continuing to expand the range of analytics and capabilities offered in Touchstone. In the coming years, we will be expanding Touchstone's underwriting mode, enhancing our mapping and accumulation management capabilities, and evolving Touchstone into a more complete enterprise portfolio and exposure management platform that will meet the needs of the insurance and reinsurance companies of tomorrow. Due to the strengths of Touchstone, our track record of executing on our plans, and our clear product and model development roadmaps, the market is rapidly adopting Touchstone to support a broad range of risk management functions, including commercial underwriting. Over 120 companies are using Touchstone in production today, and that number is growing rapidly. Additionally, many commercial carriers are in the process of extending their use of Touchstone down to the point of underwriting, and we are working closely with these carriers to make the most of Touchstone in conjunction with other capabilities offered by Verisk.